Okay, welcome to another edition of Huckins on Film. I'm your host Kyle Huckins, and I just got back from seeing the remake of Red Dawn. First, the trailers. I missed a few of them. I got there a little late, but saw the Parker trailer again. It's Jeff Chelios versus Vic Mackey. I'm in. Another Stallone film directed by Walter Hill called Bullet in the Head. It looks like an old school Stallone film. Yeah, it looks good. It looked really good. Saw the trailer for Mama again. It actually looks pretty interesting. But Guillermo del Toro did something completely stupid in this. Stars Jessica Chastain. And she has short black hair in this. Guillermo? That better be a wig. Because if you chop those locks and dyed them black, I will look for you. I will find you, and I will kill you. This is not a threat, this is a promise, sir. You do not mess up a perfectly good ginger and expect me to stay my wrath. That is all. There are other trailers, I just don't remember them. Nothing that really caught my eye. On to the movie. This review may actually be a couple of parts. Like, seriously, I may have to split this up into 2 or 3 parts just to get it online. Because this one's going to be long, I can tell. I'll try to give you a little perspective. I grew up with the original Red Dawn. I enjoy the movie. But I also realized that it was dated before Reagan left office, really. So it has not aged well. So you're trying to remake that. Also, I do tend to follow news and politics quite a bit. Just gonna warn you, this is probably gonna end up getting political here and there because this is inherently a political movie. And if you follow this sort of thing with any interest at all, you would realize that the idea of North Korea invading the United States is possibly the dumbest thing ever. Because, yeah, I'm just going to warn you right now, did not like this movie at all. In fact, this might have been dumber than Prometheus. Yeah, I'm dropping a P-bomb here as to how bad this was. It's just mind-blowing to me how they could take a movie with such a stupid premise and make it dumber. Like I said, I do enjoy the original Red Dawn, but the thing was, it was dated while Reagan was still in office. And trying to import it into a post-Cold War setting is just dumb. This is a Cold War movie. You know, if they had set it in the 80s, maybe it has a chance. Well, no, this one didn't. It wouldn't have felt as anachronistic, but it still would have been just as bad. Because somehow, this movie was made by people who didn't understand the original. Yeah, I'm going to repeat that again. This movie was made by people who didn't understand the original Red Dawn. There's not a lot to understand in the original Red Dawn. There's no brilliant subtext or anything to it, really. But somehow, people who didn't understand what made that movie work made this. Oh, God, I'm trying to... Well, first of all, this is a PG-13 war movie. Yeah. Yeah, just let that... A PG-13 war movie. There's almost no fucking blood in this movie. You can't make a war movie without blood. Honestly, it's an insult to make a war movie without blood. It just shows you what a complete lack of understanding of the subject matter these people have. Now, it's a lot of explosions, a lot of people get killed. I've seen more blood after I cut myself shaving. I mean, I'll grant you I've almost killed myself a few times shaving, but that's a whole other story. Not suicidal, I'm just a klutz. Yeah, seriously, it's like I've seen more blood after cutting myself by accident. Also, the original Red Dawn, it's an ensemble movie. All of the Wolverines are the stars. In this one, it's a small group of the Wolverines are the stars. The rest of them might as well be wearing red shirts and have their names legally changed to cannon fodder. Because they don't matter. And that's part of why this movie fails so badly. Something happens to one of them, you're supposed to feel it. But you don't, because, oh my god, they killed... who was that guy? These characters aren't even forgettable. Because you didn't know anything about them you had nothing about them to forget. So when they died, it just... oh, they killed Greg. Now here's one part where one of the characters does get killed. And Chris Hutchinson's character Jed is yelling at Josh Peck's character Matt, "You got Greg," that he got Greg killed. That was the first time you heard his fucking name. How am I supposed to care about Greg getting killed if he doesn't even have a name until after he gets killed? Not gonna happen. And centers on hang on, my memory absolutely blew. Centers on Hemsworth, Peck, Isabel Lucas's character Eric Martin, who's Matt's girlfriend, Adrian Palicki, who plays Jed's kind of sort of girlfriend Tony. And if they were playing... and it's funny, because she was actually Wonder Woman in that failed Wonder Woman pilot, which, if you've ever seen the review on that guy with the glasses... oh. Not really her fault, but still. Wow. It's like, oh man. I'd rather watch Thor and Wonder Woman fight the North Koreans. There's a comic crossover. Actually, it goes back to my boss's theory that once you get really big as a character, you should have to play that character in every movie. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I admit it would be kind of funny. You know, if this had been Thor vs. North Korea, that would have been a much better movie. It would have been the Avengers Part 2. Okay, fine. loved Avengers Part 1 enough. I can never love Avengers Part 1 enough. It was a great movie. Oh, this... It's a train wreck. It's incredibly lazy. Like I said, it centers on the four of them. Also two other characters, Daryl and Robert, who are kind of main characters. They're important enough they last towards the end of the movie anyway. Sorry, I just realized something else terrible about this movie. This is probably going to happen a lot. But yes, you have a whole ensemble, and you don't know who half the players are. So their deaths are meaningless. There's no consequence or weight to them. Where's Red Dawn? You knew who these guys were. When they died, it resonated. You're like, oh shit. You know, whoever got killed. And it's like, oh, that guy whose name I don't remember is dead now. Just a complete failure on that part. Also, the casting is the Eckert brothers. Just, I think Chris Hemsworth does okay, but they change him into an Air Force veteran. You know, he's like college age. He's back from active duty for a few weeks. It's kind of just really silly because it feels like they tried to make this movie a little more realistic by having him be military man, even though it's about North Korea, a country that can't feed its own people, mount an attack half a world away on a country I don't know how many more times its size. It's monumentally dumb. Also, Hemsworth, he tries, but every now and then the fact that he's Australian tends to come through. He's given it his best, trying to sound American. He still sounds like Thor. It's not Midwestern this time. It's actually been moved to Spokane, Washington, for whatever reason. Honestly, that doesn't really matter so much. Josh Peck as Matt Eckert. Oh my god, he's terrible. He is absolutely awful. Every time they show him on screen, in my head I could just hear Crow yelling, "Dull surprise!" Because it's the only look he has. It's like we've all known someone like this various times in our lives. Or look at the picture of Jim Brewer. He's just, you know, that one guy who just looks like he's always high. That's the look he's got the whole time in this movie. It's wow, all this going on and you just look baked. He is brutal in this movie. Now, it's the only thing I've ever seen him in. He may have done other parts very well. I don't know. But in this, he is. Oof. He's not an action lead at all. He actually reminds me a lot of Keanu Reeves at his worst. Well, Keanu Reeves always looks like he's just trying to process his surroundings, and it's just not quite working. This guy just looks like... He looks high the whole time. And, he is absolutely brutal. I mean, anytime they have to be emotional, it hurts. It's not easy to watch. The laws of physics also take a beating in this movie. Because part of why they're able to pull this off is the use of electromagnetic pulses, which work very selectively. Yeah. Yeah, they take down power grids, but they don't mess up cars that have all kinds of computer and electronic equipment in them. They're just... I mean, the screw-ups don't know how these things work. It's just kind of catering to Newt Gingrich's fantasy terror about being attacked with an EMP. Even though I've done some reading on the subject here and there, and basically the only way you can have a nuclear weapon generate the kind of EMP you need, you need a nuclear weapon to generate an EMP. And the area affected by the EMP has already been flattened by a nuclear blast. These are not weapons that need to be feared. You also find out that for counterinsurgency help, the North Koreans have enlisted the Russians. Why is Russia helping North Korea? There's no context in which this makes any sense. Say what you will about Putin. He's a fucker. I don't like the guy. But he hasn't really shown any interest in being a direct military threat to the United States. Helping North Korea take us out, it's just... there's nothing in it for him other than the risk of potential nuclear retaliation. He may be a borderline Bond villain, but he's a smart guy. He's done his calculations. He's really got no interest in going to war with us. Ugh. Trying to think of how else this movie has failed. In the original, there's a part where the character of Daryl is captured, and eventually a tracking device is implanted in him because he's threatened with torture. The Acker brothers, when they realize what's going on, they remind you what stone cold killers they've become, and they just flat out blast him. In this, Daryl gets stabbed in a fight with a couple of Russians. Well, apparently they tagged him like an animal with a chip. Daryl offers to stay behind. Once they realize what's going on after they get an ambush, Daryl stays behind. And he's just going to fight the Russians. He's going to fight the North Koreans as best he can to cover his friends. There's no betrayal. There's none of the drama that comes with that. There's none of the drama that comes with betrayal. It's just, oh, that's bad. Let's resolve this cleanly so it doesn't upset anyone. What's really funny is they think they have a highly military audience. Because he says, Robert, leave me your saw. I'll do what I can do. Now, how many people realize that when he says saw, he means a squad assault weapon, heavy machine gun? He says that, probably half the audience is like, what the fuck's he going to do with a hacksaw? Or whatever kind of saw. Ugh. It's It's an incredibly bad movie. I I thought this was going to be long because I walked out of that theater so mad, but I'm already starting to forget a lot. Mostly because I walked out of that movie dumber than I went into it, and that's for damn sure. But just it's I mean, it's a blood and guts movie with a lot of gravity to it, and there's no blood, there's no guts, and there's no gravity. That's crap. That's an incredibly weak movie. That everything about it is so thin it almost doesn't exist. Oh, the ending? This movie doesn't have an ending. What it does have, though, is one of the characters, near the end, disappears. Yeah. Fuck it, we're gonna get into spoilers here. Daryl gets them ambushed. Unknowingly. Jed gets killed. Anyway, Erica, Tony, Matt, Robert, and Daryl escape. Daryl does his thing where he just leaves the group to stay behind because he's tagged. Robert disappears. Because they had linked up with a few members of the Free American Marines. A couple of retired looked like there were a bunch of ex-Marines who pressed back into service. Man one played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who's pretty decent in an almost non-existent role. I mean, he's supposed to be the Powers Booth stand-in. And honestly, by making Jed ex-military, they kind of made Chris Hemsworth play both Powers Booth and Patrick Swayze. But anyway, he offers all them, or no, he's talking to them, and they got a chopper. Said, "You guys want to ride over the border back? You've done enough." And Jed says, "No, we're going to stay behind." But it's only Jed, Erica, and Tony who stay behind. But in the scene where Morgan's talking, I'm sorry, Matt, not Jed. Where they're talking, Robert's not in the background. He just sort of disappeared from the movie. I mean, that's... Well, I will say that's the one little teeny tiny inkling of the existence of a possible bit of balls in this movie. They killed Jed. I was actually kind of surprised by that. It's the only part of the movie that really has any weight to it at all. But, oh, yeah, overall, save your fucking money. This movie's bad. And it's not even entertaining bad. It's not a riff on with your friends bad. It's just, wow. That was just boring and poorly written. Whew. I knew I was going to walk out of that one mad. I didn't think I was going to walk out this mad, though. That's just... oh, that was fucking terrible. Anyway, I'm Kyle Huckins for Huckins on Film, fucking off.